Okay, today we're going to be reading peak page 173 to 184, the chapter called Family History. Um, One thing you'll notice is I did a blue background on this PowerPoint to make sure that you can click on the button. No more white backgrounds because I know that's hard to click on the buttons on YouTube. So here we go. You need a piece of paper in front of you with your name, hour, and date on it. Okay, piece of paper on there. Also put page 173 to 184 at the top of the page so that it's easier for me to know which assignment it is I'm grading. For this assignment, make sure you do your absolute best work because this is going in as an assessment grade to assess your ability to use the Good Reader strategies. Family history. We are on page 173. The next day, I expected to see Sunho at one of the intermediate camps, but he wasn't hiding out in either one. This meant they had figured out a way to get him down to the Porter camp, or else Captain Sheck had gotten his hands on him. Whatever his fate, I didn't have a lot of time to worry about it, because our trip down to base camp was a nightmare. Once again, the weather had warmed up, turning some of the glacial rivers into raging torrents. If we'd had boats and paddles instead of crampons and ice axes, we would have been down to base camp in minutes. Now remember, they're trying to get some of the sick and injured people down the mountain to safety. And so Captain Sheck and Zopa took the helicopter, and a few people who were the worst injured people and the people who were in the worst shape took them down the mountain in the helicopter, and the rest of them are walking down. By the time we reached the first intermediate camp, about half our party was ready to give up and spend another night high on the mountain. We should push on, Dietrich urged them. We need to get the frostbite taken care of. We can be at base camp in 3 hours. Unfortunately, no one else seemed to share his opinion, including the other Germans on his team, who I think blamed him for their summit failure. They sat on rocks, staring at him dully as if he had lost his mind. But Dietrich was right. We were headed downhill. Even with their injuries, it wouldn't take long to get to base camp. I knew they were tired and hurting, so was I. But spending another night at a crummy camp this close to base was stupid. The Sherpas appeared to be behind Dietrich 100%. None of them had even sat down to rest. I think Dietrich is right, I said. One of the Germans laughed. Ah, now we have a child telling us what to do. Some of the others laughed with him. Ouch. I should have kept my mouth shut. I wasn't really in a position to tell them what to do, even if I was right. What's the matter with all of you? Someone behind us shouted. I turned around and was shocked to see Josh, and he wasn't alone. Bad weather coming in tonight, Zopa added. You cannot stay here. Zopa? Josh was grinning, but I could tell he wasn't feeling well. His eyes were bloodshot, and he looked pale and haggard. He patted Dietrich on the back. Sorry about the trouble up on the mountain. Dietrich looked like he was about ready to cry. I wasn't sure if it was from grief over the dead climbers or relief that Josh and Zopa had shown up to give him a hand. Josh walked over to the sitting climbers. If we leave right now, we should be able to get down before dark. We have a team of doctors waiting to treat you. Hot food. Get up, let's go. No one was laughing at Joshua Wood. I remembered what my mother said about there being no one better than Josh when you were at the end of your rope. He was obviously sick, but here he was encouraging climbers who weren't even members of his own expedition. Slowly, one by one, they started getting to their feet. Zopa took the lead with Dietrich. Josh and I followed behind. How was Camp 4? How was Camp 4? He asked tiredly. Any problems? It was hard, but not as bad as I thought it would be. My ribs hurt from trying to get enough air. No worries. Everybody goes through it. Zopa says you're ready for the summit. It was one thing for Zopa to give me some words of encouragement after a hard climb. It was another thing for him to tell Josh that I was ready to summit. I didn't know what to say. At that point, the summit seemed like too big of a subject to tackle, and maybe even bad luck to talk about. I think Josh knew how I felt, maybe better than I did, because he didn't say any more about it. The squirt of paranoia from a few days before seemed to have evaporated. What happened to Zopa and Captain Sheck? I asked. A mini revolution. As soon as the porters and Sherpas heard about Zopa's arrest, they all gathered around Shek's headquarters to hold a silent vigil. They were there when the chopper landed. Shek tried to disperse them, but they wouldn't budge. He hauled Zopa into the building, hoping to outweight them, but that didn't work. They'd still be there if he hadn't cut Zopa loose. He had no choice but to let them go. Let him go. And Sunho? That's the best part. Shek pulled all the soldiers back to headquarters, which made it easy to sneak Sunho back into the porter camp. If he hadn't detained Zopa, I'm not sure how we would have gotten Sunho off the mountain. He might have had to stay at one of the intermediate camps until he tried for the summit. Why is Captain Shek so worried about him? I think he knows more about what we're trying to do than he's saying. Alright, we're going to stop the video there for a minute. I want you to pause the video, and I want you to use one of your good reader strategies. Remember, ask a question, draw a picture, or make a text-to-self connection. So you're going to ask at least, let's make it 2 questions. Ask at least 2 questions, draw a picture or describe what you saw, and then, or make a text-to-self connection. Do one of those 3. Okay, pause the video and do that. All right, we're picking up at the top of page 176. How do you find out? Josh shrugged. It's hard to keep a secret up here, even if everybody keeps their mouths shut. Speaking of which, he slowed down. Your mom called. The grin was gone. His easygoing mood had completely changed. Why'd you write her? He asked. Because she wrote to me, I said a little more belligerently than I had intended. I guess my mood had changed, too. Josh looked confused. I knew that one day I'd have this conversation with him, but I didn't think it would be at 20,000 feet, with him sick and me so tired I could barely lift my feet. But I guess there is no ideal time or place for something like this. I thought we had an agreement, he said. I thought we were going to let me handle your mother. There was no agreement, I said, and I didn't think anyone could handle my mother. We glared at each other. The least you could have done, he said, was to tell me that you wrote her so I wasn't blindsided. The least you could have done is write me back. Ouch. What the heck are you talking about? I sent you letters. You mean when you were a kid? Yeah. So? You got the letters? I shouted. He stopped and pulled his goggles around his neck. Yeah, I got your letters. What does that have to do with telling your mother about Everest? Everything, I said. He didn't get it, and he didn't seem to care. Well, she's royally mad, he said. It was all I could do to stop her from flying over here and yanking you off the mountain. At least I think I stopped her. She wants you to call her as soon as you get to base camp. Fine, I said. She insisted that I take you to the top myself, which screws up everything. I'm either going to have to go with you in Sunho, or you'll have to join my team, which means there will be a long delay in your summit attempt because it looks like we'll be the last team to go. I'm in no shape to climb, and neither is anyone else on the team. Lucky you have a backup in Sunho, I said. Either way, you'll get the youngest climber in the world to the summit. Is that what this is about? He asked. You're mad because it's not just you anymore? It was never about me, I said. It's always been about you. I walked away from him, past the injured climbers, past Dietrich, past Zopa, arriving back at base camp a half hour before any of them. I barged into HQ, grabbed the sat phone, and punched in the number as I stomped over to my tent. Mom answered on the first ring. We're going to stop right there. So think about this. Josh finally has this conversation with his dad. Okay? So at this point, the question is how do you think he feels right now? I wanted to know. How do you think Peak feels right now that he finally told his dad how he felt? And how do you think Josh feels? So how does Peak feel? How does Josh feel? Pause the video. All right, we're at the bottom of page 177. Peak? I got a little choked up when I heard her voice, and it was a second or two before I could respond. Hi, Mom. Silence. That went on so long that I thought I'd lost the connection. You should have told me, she finally said. I was tempted to say that I had told her in the moleskin, but I knew that wouldn't fly. Sorry, I said. That didn't sound very sincere, but I'll accept it. How'd you do at Camp 4? She asked quietly. I was shocked at how calm she was. It was hard, I answered, but I'm good. Your ribs are okay? A little sore, but yeah, they're fine. You're not mad? Furious. That was more like it, but she didn't sound furious. Josh told me you were sick? I'm over it, but a lot of others have it now, including Josh, but I didn't tell her that. I know, she said. Since I got your journal, I've been surfing the Everest websites. Looks like a lot of climbers are leaving the mountain. I also read about the deaths at Camp 6. I walked down the mountain today with the German team leader, I told her. His name is Dietrich. And how is he? I don't know. Devastated, I guess. And how are you? What do you mean? Well, 4 people died less than a mile from you, she said, sounding a little more like my mother. Any thoughts on that? Feelings? Reaction? I didn't know what to say. I feel bad. Didn't quite cut it. Mom was just getting warmed up. 4 people died on the mountain. Human beings, Peak. With mothers, fathers, brothers, sisters, children, wives, husbands, girlfriends, boyfriends, sitting at home worrying about them. By now, they've gotten a phone call or an email with the bad news. Sorry, your husband/wife/daughter isn't coming home. No, we can't retrieve a body above Camp 4. It's too dangerous. I reached my tent and climbed inside. Let me ask you a question, she said. Go ahead. Do you think you're a better climber than the 4 who died? No. Do you think you're luckier than they were? I guess. I said I'm alive. That's not what I'm getting at. You're saying that the same thing could happen to me. You're not on the wall in back of our cabin or at a climbing camp. You're on Everest. People die up there, Peak. You might die. The guys who died weren't acclimatized, I protested. They should have waited. They saw a break in the weather and got summit fever. They made a mistake. You think that means anything to those who are waiting for them at home? I looked up at the drawings that the 2Ps had sent. Well, Mom persisted. One of the drawings was a stick figure clinging to a skyscraper with a helicopter hovering overhead. Just above the stick figure was a little blue mountain. I'm trying for the summit, I said. I've gone through too much to give up now. This was followed by a longer silence than the first. I wish you wouldn't do it, Peak, but I'm not surprised by the decision. I know what I would have said to my mother if I were on Everest, getting ready for the climb of my life. She really talks about her parents. They still lived in Nebraska, and I had met them only twice. It wasn't much fun either time. They didn't approve of Mom, me, Josh, Rolf, or even the 2Ps. Mom had left home right after high school and never lived there again. I'll be careful, I said. No one climbs a mountain thinking they're not coming back down. How are the 2Ps? I asked. You're changing the subject. Yeah, Mom sighed. Hang on a minute. About 30 seconds later, the sat phone earpiece was filled with a pair of screaming, giggling 6-year-old girls. And no, I'm not going to try to be a screaming 6-year-old girl. Where are you? When are you coming home? I miss you. No, I miss you. Did you get our letters? Mommy was mad at you. Are you coming home for our birthday? This went on for a while, and I just listened with a big, stupid grin on my face. Until I heard them, I hadn't realized how much I missed them. Mom finally took the phone away from them. Okay, she said. You have to let Peak answer your questions. I'm going to put them on the speakerphone. You two are going to sit there quietly. If you make one sound, the phone call's over. I heard a click. I miss you too, I said. I'm on a big mountain called Everest in a country called Tibet. I have your drawing hanging up in my tent. I'm looking at it right now. I'm not sure if I'm going to be there for our birthday or not. I have to get to the top of the mountain first. Can I ask, Mommy? Patrice asked. Yes, but only one question. Then Paula can ask a question. Then you both need to go back to the kitchen and finish breakfast, or you'll be late for school. But... No, Mom cut her off. One question each, then back to breakfast. Do we have a deal? The twins reluctantly agreed. Did you get our other letter? Patrice asked. The heavy one? Not yet, I said. but I'm sure it's on its way. The mail is very slow where I am. My turn, Paula asked. Mommy gave your black diary to Mr. Vincent. I hope he likes it, I said. He's funny, Paula said. Okay, that's it, Mom said. But I didn't ask a question, Paula complained. We had a deal. Both of you go back to the kitchen. There was some grumbling and whining, but the two peas obeyed. What time is it there? Oh, after 8 in the morning. I hadn't even thought about what time it was. Mom had probably been waiting all night for my call. How's Ralph? He's out of town on a business trip. He'll be back tonight, and he's going to be upset he missed your call. Okay, we're going to stop right there. Same as usual. I want you to do one of the 3 good reader strategies. Ask 2 questions, draw a picture, or make a text to self-connection. Okay, make these good, because remember, this is an evaluation grade. Pause the video. Top of page 182. Mom sighed. Peek. I gave it my best shot to try to talk you out of trying for the summit. But now that the decision has been made, you need to focus on the task. You can't think about me, Paula, Patrice, Rolf, or anyone else. To stay alive, you are going to have to think only about yourself. Do you know why I quit climbing? Yeah, I said. You fell from the wall in back of... No, she interrupted. I quit because of you. What? With some work, I could have gotten my climbing condition back. In fact, the reason I went for that climb the day I fell was because Josh wanted me to get back on the circuit with him. Just before I fell, I was thinking about what would happen if a rattlesnake slithered up to my baby strapped in his car seat down below. If I'd been thinking about the climb, I would have realized the rock I grabbed was loose before I put weight on it. To climb at Josh's level, you have to be completely selfish, Peak. When you were born, I couldn't do that anymore. I have no doubt that you have the physical ability to summit Everest or any other mountain you want. But you may not have the ability to not care. For the next few weeks, you have to harden yourself inside. Your guts and heart need to be stone cold. I didn't do a lot of high altitude when I was climbing, but I did enough to know that the thin air messes with your brain. You need to forget everything else and concentrate on the climb. You have enough experience to know when it's over. And when it's over, don't take another step higher. If you do, it could be over for good. Turn around. There's no shame in it. Live to climb another day. And when you come back down, I hope that good and caring heart of yours thaws. It's the most important muscle you have. I love you, Peak. And this is when she cut the connection. I don't know how long I lay there thinking about what she said, but I can tell you there were plenty of tears. As the blue light through the tent faded to dark, I was still lying there when the flap opened. It was Josh. You have the sat phone? I sat up. Yeah. Sorry, I should have brought it back. I gave it to him. So you talked to your mom? Yes. One thing we need to get straight, he said. Getting Sun Ho to the top is not a backup plan. I'm giving him a shot because I owe him and Zopa. What do you mean? 2 years ago, Qatar saved my life. Sun Ho's father? Up on K2. You're the climber who survived. We'd been snowed in for 3 days. No food, no O's, no hope of survival. I watched my climbing party die one by one until I was the only one left. I should have been next, but Qatar came up the mountain through the worst blizzard I've ever seen. He came alone. None of the other Sherpas would come with him. He all but carried me back down. When we got to base camp, we stumbled into the aid tent. I took one cot, Qatar took the other. While Leah was treating my frostbite and giving me IV fluids, the man who saved my life died not 4 feet away from me. His heart gave out. I didn't even get a chance to thank him. I thought you ought to know. He closed the flap, and I heard his footsteps crunching through the snow as he walked away. All right, so right now, I want you to write down, why does Sun Ho Or why does Josh want Sunho to get to the top? Okay, we found out the real reason why Josh is pushing to help Sunho get to the top. So why does Josh want Sunho to get to the top? And my second question is, does this change your views of Josh at all, and why? Okay, so why does he want Sunho to get to the top, and does this change your views of Josh? All right, when you are finished, go ahead and turn your paper in. Make sure you've answered all of the questions. Make sure your name, hour, and date are on that. Make sure page 173 to 184 is on the top. It's 184, right? Yep, 184 is on the top of the page, and turn it into the tray. That's it.